Hello and welcome to the Book Bunch. Today we are talking about the Keeper of the Lost Cities book set, book 1 to 5. I cannot for the life of me get book 5 to fit back in, but that is the issue with box sets. Once you open them, it's very hard to get them back the way they came. My name is Sam. It is so great to have you guys here for another video. I'm excited about this one because it is a 5-star series. You guys had been asking me about it for a while now, and I had pushed it off and pushed it off, but it was sitting there, it was glaring at me. I was in a funk, so I wanted to read books that I knew were gonna be good, and based on the hype, I had to see if it lived up to it, and it absolutely did. I don't know if I will catch up with the series yet though, because there is 9 books in total. Technically it's there's one that's 8.5 even though it's the full size of the book, but it's more background information and short stories and stuff. But yeah, there's still another 4 or 5 books in the series, which I don't know that I'll be able to get to anytime soon. I also don't know if I can afford them anytime soon, so we will see. But yes, we are going to jump in and talk about each individual one. I'm going to try and keep it as spoiler free as possible, but if I let little things slip here and there, I do apologize. First book, Keeper of the Lost Cities. So all of these books are over 500 pages and they just get bigger and bigger as they go along, so just be aware of that. However, I don't know what it was about these books, but even though they were a ridiculous amount of pages each, I breezed through them as easily as if they were half the size, which is really bizarre because even if I really love a bigger book like Brandon Sanderson, for example, it still just takes me so long to read and digest everything that I'm reading, even if I'm really loving it. This, maybe because it is middle grade, you just kind of soak it up so quickly that you can read quickly and still know everything that's happening as if you weren't reading quickly. I hope that kind of makes sense. But yes, it is middle grade. My only 2 qualms with the series is in every book, they repeat information that was integral to the previous books, as if you'd never heard the information before, or it was a recap at the start of a TV episode or something. And I understand that the author might have felt it necessary because it's middle grade, but I've read many other middle grade series and it's an uncommon thing to find that, and I think it's unnecessary considering the reading level these middle grade kids would have to be at to read this series to start with. You don't need to recap the information, in my opinion. The way she writes and what she's writing about is so mature that, yeah, to recap it kind of brings down the reading level. If that makes sense, I hope that makes sense. And I hope you guys agree with what I'm saying. So I didn't like that. I found that a little bit annoying, especially since it's not like she would recap it all at the beginning. It's all the way through she'd bring up a topic that's previously been mentioned and feel like she needs to recap it again. And I just, yeah, it wasn't enough for me to be oh, this isn't 5-star, but it's just not as good as some other 5-star middle grade series that I've read. Still good though. And the other thing is, oh my goodness, am I going to forget what the other thing is now? Probably, yeah, just that some of the things that happen in these stories and these books feel a bit too mature for the age of the characters, and you almost forget how young these kids are meant to be because of what's happening and how maturely they react to situations, that I feel she made their age way too low for what they're going through. And I understand that to make it middle grade she would have had to make them younger, because that's typically what middle grade means. It means that the kids in the stories are younger. But I don't know, it just felt like they were too mature for what was happening to them. And I understand that sometimes kids, especially in novels, go through mature situations, but I feel like there should have been some more immature reactions from that, if that makes sense. Like, especially the main character, Sophie, the amount of things that she can deal with and hold on to and everything, she should have definitely had a full-on meltdown by now, or like thrown in the towel or something, like some kind of breakdown, because she's a kid. Like, she's like 14, 13, 15 in these books. Like, she should be having a emotional response that matches her age, and I feel like she's not. I feel like they've made her too emotionally mature, and that doesn't necessarily make sense to me. But again, you guys might disagree, and that's okay. But they're the only issues I've found so far. This series so far is completely clean, and from what I've heard from other booktubers, it's clean the whole way through. So that is also good to know. But yes, what are these books about? So this first book is about Sophie. She starts off as 12 in the first book, and as the books go on, she slowly grows up. And she is living with a human family, and like she has like kind of normal family struggles. Like, she's got a younger sister that's really annoying and kind of picks on her and stuff. Normal sisterly things, but she feels very out of place both within her family and within like the other kids in her class, for example, because she's freakishly smart, due to the fact that she has a photographic memory, and so she skipped grades at school and stuff like that, and that came with its own challenges. And also, when she was 5, she was in an accident that caused her to be able to hear other people's thoughts. So she has like a telepathic ability that causes her to be able to hear everyone's thoughts around her, and it's very stressful, especially because she can tell what people are really thinking about her, and like what her parents are keeping from her, stuff like that, stuff kids shouldn't know, or anyone really should know, because we need to be able to filter our thoughts. That's why there's that whole think before you speak thing, because if we just spoke everything we said, it would be a bit of chaos. So yeah, she's very overwhelmed by that. And she goes on a school trip to a local museum, and she's kind of trying to stick to the back a bit because she already knows all of the answers and the facts and stuff that they are trying to teach her, which annoys her teacher a lot and annoys the other kids because they think she's just a know-it-all. And she's also overwhelmed by the amount of voices that she can hear. And that's when she notices this boy looking at her, and she's a bit freaked out. But he comes and approaches her, and she's a bit wary. But he admits that he can hear the voices too. And that kind of like sucks her in, and she feels like she should run away, but she's also like, I need answers at the same time. And she basically gets swept away by this boy. This boy's name is Fitz, and he is kind of comes in, and he's a bit older than Sophie, and he kind of comes in and sweeps her away and opens her eyes to a whole bunch of stuff. If you don't want any more information about the series, because I went in blind, I would leave the video here. However, if you want more, like bit more like what the blurb says, and even a little bit more than that, you may continue. But here's your warning, so you can leave if you don't want spoilers of any kind. But okay, so Sophie gets taken by Fitz, and Fitz basically tells her the reason you can hear these voices and you feel out of place and all of this is because you're an elf. But elves aren't what humans think they are. And she's like very confused, doesn't know what's going on. She's like, how can I be an elf if my family is human? and basically they tell her like they're not really your family biologically. You are essentially an experiment by some rogue elves, and they used a fertility clinic to like bring you into the world through your mother, but she's not actually biologically your mother, or your dad is not your biological dad. And you need to say your final goodbyes to them. We need to get your family like to safety, and we're going to erase their memories, and you were going to come back to the elf world, which is kind of hidden from humanity, because a treaty between the elves and the humans went wrong hundreds of years before. And so she agrees, she says goodbye, they erase her parents' memories, and they kind of put them into basically what's like a witness protection, but like in the human world, which are called the Lost Cities. So the Lost Cities are the elf worlds, and then the Forbidden Cities are the human worlds. Countries, I should say, because it's all in the same world. But the elves can use these crystals to teleport them between places, so they can go between continent and continent, or like city to city, that kind of thing. And she basically gets opened up to this whole world of elves, and there's also other beings that the elves are in treaties with, like there are ogres and dwarves and gnomes, and I think there might be one other as well that I can't remember. And they're all like very different to what you would think those would be. For example, goblins is the other one. For example, the goblins are really tall and really good warriors, and the elves kind of hire them as their warriors and their bodyguards and stuff. And the gnomes are more plant than they are human. And they are like really good gardeners. They don't need to sleep pretty much at all. But again, they look very different to what we would think a gnome is and stuff like that. And like the elves look pretty much human, except for the elves that are thousands of years old, and they are the ones that start to get the pointy ears. But the only other difference is that elves are really good looking, which I find so funny. Oh, and all elves have blue eyes. Sophie is the only elf to not have blue eyes. She has brown eyes, and that's because of the experimentation. So, yes, you kind of get taken on this adventure with Sophie and Fitz as she's trying to get used to the elven world. She gets given an adoptive family. She gets put in this elite school to see if she has powers, all of that kind of thing. And like she very quickly finds out that even in the elf world, she still sticks out like a sore thumb. For example, having the brown eyes. She also has, with her telepathy, for example, that's a fairly common elf skill, but hers is like really advanced and more advanced than any other telepath to ever exist. And so she's already kind of sticking out in ways. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there for book one. So that is book one, which is just Keeper of the Lost City. Then there is Exile. And this one is about Sophie, and the boy on the cover here, his name is Keith. He's one of the boys that she becomes friends with at school through mostly Fitz. And this like unicorn with wings here, its name is Sylvani, and I'm not going to be able to remember the name of these unicorns. What are they called? I can't remember. They have a special name because they're really rare. And she is off wandering through the forest one day playing a game. Was she playing a game? No. She was on an errand with her adoptive father to collect something for their animals. And she ends up hearing this voice in the forest and kind of following that voice. And it turns out to be Sylvani, this horse thing. Why can I not remember what it's called? Alicorn, that's what it's called. And she finds her, and she like telepathically communicates to her and tells her, like, it's okay, like, you don't need to be afraid, I don't want to hurt you. And they become friends, and she takes Sylvani back to the other elves, and the other elves are like, oh my goodness, there's another alicorn. We thought there was only one left in the whole world, and we were super worried that the whole race was going to go extinct, which would be a huge, big deal. And so, like, all the elves are like super vigilant about keeping this alicorn safe and trying to basically rehabilitate her in this sanctuary so that she can be put with the other alicorn that they have, in hopes that they can continue the alicorn race. And during this, like, saga with this alicorn and trying to keep this alicorn safe, they discover that there are two rogue groups at play. So there is the elves, who are run by the counselors, and then there are these two rogue groups. One is called the Black Swan, and one is called, actually I won't tell you because that's a bit of a spoiler, but there's a second group. And the Black Swan are the ones that created Sophie, and then this other group is just bad. And Sophie is still deciding whether or not the Black Swan are good or not, and she's trying to get more out of them than she is, because up until this point they've just been talking with like riddles and notes and stuff that they leave her, and she's getting very frustrated because she's getting put in all these life-threatening situations that are very scarring for her. She's almost died a number of times and everything. And so she's trying to get more out of them than what they've been giving her, because she knows that they are hiding stuff from her and she wants to know. So she is trying to communicate with the Black Swan people, and then this other group is creating terror and trying to kidnap the alicorns, and it's just a whole thing. So that is book 2. Then there is Everblaze. This one is about Sophie again. She has discovered a new ability through the help of the alicorns, but also because of some life-threatening situations. But she's found out that she can teleport, but only if she plummets off a cliff. And it's a bit crazy. She's got this new teleporting ability, and she finds out about this thing called Everblaze, which is this type of fire that is really, really difficult to extinguish, because the only way it can be extinguished is through collecting the like essence or liquid or something, I don't really know how to explain it, of these hidden stars, which only a handful of people in the elven world know about. And Everblaze, this really bad fire, is created by the pyrokinetics, and they have been banned from using their powers because the Everblaze is so destructive. And yeah, she basically has to try and fight some rogue pyrokinetics that are using this Everblaze, and she is trying to figure out some secrets of some people that are stuck in exile, which was like in the previous book. That's why this one's called Exile. She starts communicating, or searching the memories of, with her telepathy, some people who have been sent to exile. And exile is basically the elf version of a prison, where they send you to this prison and then they try to break into your mind to get your secrets and whatever you're trying to hide from the government. And if they push too hard because you're resisting back too much, it basically shatters your mind and you become kind of crazy. and there's apparently no way back from that, and so they are locked up in exile. And so in this one, she is trying to search the mind of this guy who is in exile, who is a pyrokinetic, and he is bad and he's keeping all these secrets, and so she's trying to search his memories and stuff. And yeah, she finds out all about the Everblaze and how he created it and kind of what that means for the elves moving forward. And yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff, but I can't spoil it. And then there is the Never Seen, and this one, we follow Sophie and her friends as they are trying to, so they have joined, okay, if you don't want spoilers at all, like any further spoilers, you should leave now. Because I am going to say some things that for the previous 3 books are technically spoilery, but for like this book aren't spoilery. You can read it if you just get it off the blurb, but I'm just letting you know. So in this book, Sophie and her friends join the Black Swan and like swear an oath to become a part of their group, because they find out that the Black Swan are good. And they find out that the bad group are called the Never Seen. That's what they call themselves. And all of this information is coming out about who some of the members of the Black Swan are and who are some of the members of the Never Seen are. And it's like all devastating and crazy. And she, as she is like being trained by the Black Swan, this plague is being released out onto the gnomes, and all these gnomes are getting really sick and they're going to die, and no one can figure out why or where it's come from or what the cure is. And the gnomes are a huge part of the elven way of life. They're like best friends basically. They have a very, what's that word? It's like a codependency basically on each other as races. And the gnomes are completely innocent and they're getting like attacked, and Sophie and her friends and the Black Swan basically trying to hunt down where this plague is coming from and how to stop it. They are desperately searching for a cure. So that is what Never Seen is about. And then finally we have Lodestar, and I almost don't want to talk to you guys about it because there's just like this whole thing is a spoiler. So I might actually leave it there, but Lodestar. I don't want to spoil it, that's all. But if you have read it and you want to talk to me about spoilers, I'll happily talk to you about spoilers. But I don't even want to tell you what that's about, even via the blurb, because it's just so crazy. So I will leave it there. Sorry, guys. Sorry if you're hoping I'd talk about it. But again, I'm happy to privately if you want to. But that is the Keeper of the Lost Cities book 1 to 5. Again, very good series. I would give them all 5 out of 5. I am going to update my Goodreads and hopefully put a little review for each book on there, because as I was going through these books this last week, I kind of just ticked them off as being done and like gave them the star rating, but I didn't actually leave a review yet. So I will go back and do that for you guys that are interested. But yeah, let me know if you guys like the Keeper of the Lost City series. If you haven't read it, if you're going to, if you have read it, love it, hate it, I want to know. I also want to talk about some of the things in the books, especially like Sophie and her love interest, because I know what happens with that, because I just needed to know. I get this thing, I also do the same things with TV shows, and this is probably a big reason why I don't read romance, if I'm going to be honest. I cannot handle when the couple I want to get together either doesn't get together or gets together then breaks up, or like she picks the wrong boy or whatever. Like, I cannot handle it when the romance doesn't go the way that I want it to. And I needed to know for this, because obviously it's a big series and I needed to know where I should stop so that I'm happy with it. And I know where I need to stop for this one, at least for the time being, because obviously books are still being written, so anything could happen. But if you've read like the rest of them and you want to talk to me about it, I want to know if you like how it ends up or how it doesn't. I need someone to talk to about that. So yes. Anyway, that's everything for today. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful week. Bye.